Regional Championship Series event, we'll be showcasing exciting Pokemon TCG matches all weekend. Trainers from across the region are competing for World Invites, Travel Awards, and the Regional Champion title. Day 1, our trainers face off with Swiss Round. Trainers with 19 or more match points, or the top 32, will advance forward to Sunday, Day 2. Trainers will continue playing Swiss Round until top cut is determined. Trainers will then compete in a single elimination bracket until a champion is crowned. All Swiss and top cut matches are best of 3. Who will take home the title of Regional Champion this weekend? Stay tuned to find out and follow all the action at Pokemon.com/play.
And when we are going through a regional championship, you need to know who's won it at the end of it. We have these beautiful medals, a new addition they came through last season, a change-up from the old bricks as well that we used to have. So something you can spot a regional champion with, a little easier to wear than the old brick, if you remember.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, honestly, those things are so sweet. I think if I won one, I probably wouldn't ever take it off. We'd be wearing it out and about. Let everyone know I'm a regional champion. I love to see it.
Would you do it if you had like a second place or like a third, fourth, or would it just have to be the champion one?
I mean, I think you got to be proud of any of these finishes, but that champion one definitely rings a little more pure than the other two.
Yeah, so you'd wear it to dinner the night after?
Absolutely.
I'm going to see how far I can take through the airport.
Never taking it off. Yeah, on the flight home.
Yeah, I'll have something to say about that one, Shiv.
That's fair.
But of course, there is plenty more Pokemon to play. As you mentioned, we're already a little way into the tournament, so why don't we take a look and see exactly what we've got coming up for today and tomorrow. We're going to be continuing on with our Swiss rounds today, and as mentioned in the video, 19 points advances you all the way through to Sunday Swiss. Then tomorrow we come back, we've got more Swiss as well. We're going to play another few rounds there. Then we drop into Top Cut, and of course we have to crown a champion before the end of the day tomorrow. So plenty to jam in between now and tomorrow night.
Plenty going on for sure, and we want to know exactly how the audience, how everyone watching along at home is feeling and viewing this event, what your thoughts are, what players you're rooting for. Be sure to interact with us over on social media using that hashtag #PlayPokemon on all of your social platforms. Who are your favorite players? What decks do you want to see doing well? We'd love to interact with you.
And there's also plenty to catch up on. If you haven't been able to catch maybe some of the more recent events that we had at the end of last season when the decks looked pretty similar, I'm going to be honest, plenty of options down there as well with YouTube to go and catch up and really make sure you're up to speed on the metagame before we go into a new one in just a single event.
And the metagame is a huge part of the Pokemon TCG. You'll hear us talking about it all the time. It is ever changing, ever evolving, and it really did constantly evolve and change throughout the course of the 2022 season. So let's take a look at exactly how that season played out and where we ended up. The 2022 Pokemon competitive season for the TCG was certainly one that won't be forgotten.
After 2 years with no premier events, players, judges, and staff alike were all ecstatic to return to the tournament hall.
The first North American regional was in Salt Lake City, and it took place in the Sword and Shield through Brilliant Stars format.
At the time, the most powerful deck in the format was Mew VMAX. But leading into this event, the big question was, would players play the best deck or counter the best deck?
While Mew VMAX was extremely popular at this event, it was noticeably absent from Top Cut. Drew Kinnett's Arceus V-Star deck, featuring Gengar VMAX, came out on top, proving that the powerful new V-Star card was worthy of players' attention.
Shortly after Salt Lake City, the European International Championships were held in Frankfurt, Germany. Players from around the globe gathered to compete for one of the game's most coveted titles.
An astonishing 5 Rapid Strike Urshifu decks made Top Cut at EUIC. This tournament made it very evident how vital it is to predict the metagame leading into an event. The best players in the game properly identified that Mew VMAX and Arceus V-Star were the best 2 decks, and they found the perfect answer.
In the end, it was Gustavo Wada who stood victorious. With this win, Gustavo defended his EUIC title from 2019.
There were 3 more North American regional events in the Brilliant Stars format, and players were able to quickly adjust to Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX's dominant performance at EUIC. Each of these 3 regionals was won by an Arceus V-Star deck, but they all had different ways of being prepared for the meta. Astral Radiance was released and brought with it Origin Form Palkia V-Star. This card would immediately prove itself to be a threat in the metagame.
The final regional of the season took place in Milwaukee, just 1 week before the North American International Championships. All eyes were on this event, as its results would play a vital role in determining the NAIC metagame.
Braden Elford won the event with Arceus V-Star featuring Duraludon VMAX. This was a deck that many players had written off, but it became a great metagame call for Braden, as it had a solid Palkia matchup.
At the North American International Championships, Duraludon's recent victory certainly played a role in many players' deck choices. Even still, most players chose to rely on the strength and consistency of Origin Form Palkia V-Star.
Once again, many of the best players agreed on what the best deck for the event was, as Tord Reklev, Isaiah Bradner, and Gustavo Wada all deemed Palkia to be the strongest play. But Palkia wasn't the only exciting deck in the room.
Perhaps the biggest surprise and excitement from the event came from Sander Wojcik and his incredibly unique Mewtwo V Union deck. He made a dazzling run through the event, being the first seed heading into Top Cut.
But his path to victory would eventually be stopped when the combination of a few unfortunate tails and Azul Garcia Griego having just the right amount of resources available would lead to Mewtwo V Union's downfall.
Perhaps Azul made the best meta call of the event. He predicted that Palkia would be one of the most popular decks, so he paired Arceus V-Star with an unlikely partner, flying a Pikachu VMAX. This lightning-type attacker could make quick work of Origin Form Palkia V-Star decks, provided it could power up quickly enough.
By defeating Sander's Mewtwo V Union, Azul etched his way into the finals of NAIC, where he would have to face Isaiah Bradner's Palkia, the very deck he was prepared to beat. After a back-and-forth 3-game set, it was eventually Azul's Flying Pikachu VMAX, floating away to victory.
Players gave their all throughout the 2022 season. However, the fiercest competition was fast approaching. Players from around the globe gathered in London for one final event, the 2022 Pokemon World Championships.
The newest mini-expansion, Pokemon Go, was undoubtedly going to have an impact on the metagame. Radiant Charizard showcased its power by being able to take one-hit KOs on its opponent's rival V-Star Pokemon. Unsurprisingly, Origin Form Palkia V-Star was extremely popular. Its power and consistency made it one of the top choices for Pokemon's biggest event.
But there was one deck Palkia players could not escape. Arceus V-Star paired with Flying Pikachu VMAX. Making a return after a prevailing NAIC win, this deck not only had weakness against Palkia, but new and unique builds had emerged.
Yeah, it's like Ryota decided that he can take some losses to some decks, but it will not be Palkia.
The final match would feature Andrei Skubal of Czechia against Daichi Shimada of Japan. While both of these players were playing the same deck, this wasn't an exact mirror match. Daichi included the Jolteon Memory Capsule package, but Andre had the consistency of Bibarel to get out of difficult hands and into specific cards needed to close out games.
It was an exciting finals match, but Daichi found himself simply trying to keep up. Andre had the extra draw support of Bibarel to rely on, while Daichi's hands were filled with unuseful Jolteon pieces. Ultimately, consistency prevailed, and Andre Skubal secured everything needed to earn the title of 2022 Pokemon TCG World Champion.
And Andre will be your 2022 Pokemon Trading Card Game World Champion.
The question now becomes, what's next? There are many new expansions on the horizon. How will these new cards impact the metagame? Will we see new faces make a name for themselves? Follow along as the journey continues this season of the Pokemon Championship Series.
What a fantastic year we had. Coming back to events after a little break, fantastic regionals, ICs, and of course a World Championships to top it all off. I was looking at it from the other side of the desk at the time, but following along what you guys were up to was also really exciting.
We really did have some incredible moments this past year. One of the highlights for me is easily Sander Wojcik's Mewtwo V Union deck at the North American International Championships. Just a totally unique, out-of-nowhere strategy. Seeing that 4-card piece put onto the board, the massive Mewtwo coming into the active, absolutely incredible. And that is still a deck that players are choosing to play. We've got a few players here this weekend that are on that deck, so who knows, we might